Most people assume that when a family starts feeling cramped, the solution is simple. Buy a bigger house, add more square footage, add another bedroom, maybe expand the living room. But that is where many large families make the wrong assumption. Because once you move beyond a certain household size, the problem is often not the amount of house you have. It is how that house is arranged. And that changes everything. A layout that feels perfectly functional for a couple with 1 or 2 children can start breaking down surprisingly fast when you add more people, more age groups, more routines, and more competing needs under one roof. Because large families do not just create more demand for space, they create more simultaneous activity. And most traditional home layouts were never truly optimized for that. They were designed around the idea that the household would operate somewhat in sync. Parents in one area, kids in another, shared routines, limited overlap. But in a big family, that rarely happens. Someone is doing homework at the kitchen island. Someone else is watching television in the living room. A toddler is running through the hallway. A teenager wants privacy. A parent is trying to work remotely. Guests may be visiting. Grandparents may even be staying over. And suddenly the house feels chaotic. Not because it is too small, but because every function is fighting for the same shared zones. That is the hidden issue many families do not recognize until after they move in. Traditional rectangular floor plans tend to force too much life into too few central spaces. Everything funnels through the same corridors, the same open-concept great room, the same hallway spine, the same kitchen and dining area. Which sounds efficient on paper until 6 or 7 people start using it all at once. Then what looked open and spacious during the walkthrough starts feeling crowded every single day. And one of the first problems that appears is noise. Because in many conventional layouts, bedrooms stack close together. Common spaces sit directly beside private ones. Hallways act like sound tunnels. Open concept areas amplify every conversation, every television, every footstep, every slammed cabinet. For a larger family, that noise compounds quickly. Parents lose quiet. Children struggle to focus. Teenagers feel like they have nowhere private to decompress. Guests feel like they are sleeping in the middle of the house instead of in their own space. That sounds minor. It is not. Because over time, poor acoustic separation creates constant low-level friction. Then there is the privacy problem. And this is where many traditional family homes fail hardest. Large families often include people at very different life stages. You may have toddlers and teenagers, young children and aging parents, college-aged kids moving back home, relatives visiting for extended periods. But most standard layouts still cluster bedrooms together as if everyone in the household has identical privacy needs. However, they actually do not. A teenager does not live the same way a 6-year-old does. Grandparents visiting do not want to sleep beside a playroom. Parents often want some separation from the children's rooms as the family matures. Yet many homes provide almost none of that. Everything is compressed into one wing, one hallway, one zone. And the larger the family gets, the more that starts creating tension. But privacy and noise are only part of the issue, because traffic flow becomes another daily frustration. In many traditional homes, every major room sits along one circulation path, meaning everyone is constantly crossing through the same spaces. Kids run through the kitchen to reach the backyard. Someone cuts through the living room to reach bedrooms. Guests walk through private family zones to use bathrooms. Parents moving between rooms are constantly interrupted. The home starts feeling less like a collection of spaces and more like a crowded intersection. That constant overlap wears people down faster than most realize, especially in families where multiple people are home throughout the day. And then there is the backyard issue. Most families imagine outdoor space as an extension of the home, a place for kids to play, a place to entertain, a place to relax while keeping an eye on the family. But with many standard layouts, the backyard ends up disconnected from daily life. It sits behind the house rather than integrated into it. So unless someone intentionally goes outside, it often goes unused. Parents lose visual connection to children. Outdoor living feels separate instead of natural. The yard becomes occasional space rather than everyday space. And that leads to the realization more architects and designers are quietly pushing families toward. Sometimes the issue is not that your house is too small. It is that the layout was never designed for the way large families actually live. Which is exactly why U-shaped home designs have become increasingly appealing to bigger households. Because instead of forcing every part of family life into one compressed rectangle, They reorganize the home around separation, zoning, and flow. And once you understand how that works, you start to see why so many people who tour a well-designed U-shaped home immediately feel the difference. Because the real advantage is not just the shape itself, it is what that shape allows the layout to do. And that is where this gets interesting. The reason U-shaped homes feel so different is not because they are dramatically larger. In many cases, they are not. Some U-shaped homes have nearly the same square footage as a traditional rectangular plan, yet they feel substantially more functional, more spacious, more organized, and more peaceful. Why? Because the layout stops treating the entire house like one shared zone. Instead, it creates separation by design, and that is the real advantage. A U-shaped home naturally divides itself into wings. That simple structural change gives architects something traditional rectangular layouts struggle to achieve: true functional zoning. Rather than placing every bedroom, bathroom, and living area along one continuous hallway or within one compact block, the home can distribute major functions into separate zones. One wing may hold the primary suite, another may hold children's bedrooms, another may contain guest quarters, an office, or flex rooms, and suddenly, the house begins operating less like one crowded box and more like several connected environments. That matters enormously for large families, because one of the biggest frustrations in family homes is incompatible activities happening too close together. Parents want quiet while children play loudly. Teenagers stay up later than younger siblings. A work-from-home parent needs concentration while the rest of the house is active. Guests want privacy without feeling like they are sleeping in someone else's hallway. Traditional layouts struggle with that. U-shaped homes solve it naturally, because the wings create distance. Not just visual distance, real acoustic and physical separation. A parent retreat can sit on one side of the home, while children's rooms occupy another. That means late-night television, early morning routines, and general family noise create far less disruption. And for many large families, that alone transforms day-to-day livability. Because privacy in a family home is not a luxury. It is what keeps the house functional long-term. This becomes even more valuable as children age. When kids are young, many parents want bedrooms nearby. But as children become teenagers, privacy starts mattering more. Teenagers want personal space. Parents want some separation. Schedules diverge. Sleep routines change. A layout that once felt convenient can suddenly feel cramped and intrusive. U-shaped homes adapt better to that reality. They provide closeness when needed, without forcing everyone into the same compressed sleeping zone forever. And that flexibility is one reason many families stay in U-shaped homes longer. The house continues working as the family evolves, but the privacy benefit goes beyond parents and children. It also makes guest accommodations dramatically better. In many conventional homes, guest rooms are squeezed wherever space allows, often near kids' rooms, beside the kitchen, or near noisy common areas. Functional? Technically? Comfortable? Not really. A U-shaped plan allows guest suites, in-law quarters, or even home offices to occupy a separate wing. That creates a much more independent feeling space. Guests have privacy, hosts maintain privacy. Everyone feels less like they are living on top of one another. And for multi-generational households, that separation can be the difference between harmony and constant friction. Then there is traffic flow. This is one of the most underrated advantages of the entire layout. In traditional homes, movement patterns tend to overlap constantly. Everyone uses the same corridors, the same choke points, the same transitional spaces. So the house never truly settles. Someone is always walking through. Someone is always interrupting. Someone is always crossing the main room to get somewhere else. But in a U-shaped design, circulation spreads out more intelligently. The layout often wraps around a courtyard or central outdoor zone, creating multiple pathways and more distributed movement. Instead of every route crossing through one main artery, traffic can branch. That reduces congestion dramatically. It makes the house feel calmer, more controlled, less chaotic, even if the number of people inside has not changed. And that calmer traffic pattern changes how the home feels psychologically. Because a large family home is not judged only by square footage. It is judged by whether daily life feels stressful inside it. That is what many buyers miss. A poorly laid out 4,000 square foot house can feel more chaotic than a well-zoned 3,000 square foot one, because usable comfort is about layout efficiency, not raw size. Then there is visibility, another practical advantage many families love. Because U-shaped homes often wrap living spaces around a central courtyard, backyard, or outdoor living area, parents gain much better sightlines across multiple zones. From the kitchen, they may see the courtyard. From the dining room, they may see children outside. From the family room, they may maintain visual connection to multiple wings. That improves supervision naturally, creating a sense of peace and security. Children can play outdoors while remaining within the visual envelope of the house. Parents do not have to constantly step outside to check. The outdoor area feels connected rather than detached. That creates a safer, more integrated family environment, especially for younger children. And interestingly, all of this can make the home feel larger, without requiring dramatically more square footage. Because what many people perceive as spaciousness is not just room size, it is separation. It is breathing room between functions. It is the feeling that spaces have purpose rather than overlapping endlessly. A well-designed U-shaped home creates that sensation naturally. Even moderate-sized U-shaped plans often feel more expansive than larger box-shaped homes, simply because the layout introduces rhythm, division, and spatial layering. The home unfolds in sections rather than exposing everything at once. That adds a sense of scale, a sense of luxury, a sense of intentional design. And for many big families, that is the first time a house starts feeling like it was built around how they actually live, instead of forcing them to adapt to a generic floor plan. But privacy, traffic flow, and noise reduction are only part of the reason these homes are so appealing. Because where U-shaped designs become truly different is in how they transform the outdoor space into part of everyday living. And that creates lifestyle advantages most people do not fully understand until they experience one. When most people first look at a U-shaped home, they focus on the floor plan. They notice the separated wings. They notice the unusual footprint. They notice how different it looks from a standard rectangle. But what many do not immediately realize is that the biggest advantage of the design may not be inside the house at all. It is what the shape creates in the middle. Because the open center of a U-shaped home naturally forms a protected outdoor zone, and that changes how the property functions. Instead of treating the backyard like leftover land behind the house, the design turns outdoor space into something intentional, something framed, something integrated directly into the daily life of the home. That central courtyard effect is one of the main reasons families who live in U-shaped homes often say the house feels entirely different from anything they owned before. Because outdoor living stops feeling separate, it becomes part of the layout itself. Children can play in the courtyard while remaining visually connected to multiple rooms. Parents cooking in the kitchen may still have eyes on them. Someone working in the dining area may still see outside. Family members in the living room remain connected to the outdoor activity. That sounds simple, but for families with young children, it can be a major quality of life improvement. A traditional backyard often feels exposed and detached. A courtyard framed by the house feels protected, contained, easier to supervise, and psychologically safer for both parents and children. It creates the feeling of a semi-private outdoor room rather than an open yard. That makes the space more usable on a daily basis. And when outdoor space gets used more often, the house effectively gains another living zone. That is one reason U-shaped homes often feel larger than their square footage suggests. Because the courtyard or central outdoor area functions like an extension of the interior, not just occasional bonus space. Real living space. Families eat there, relax there, work there, watch children play there, host gatherings there. And because the architecture wraps around that space, it feels more intentional and comfortable than a detached patio behind a standard home. The house itself helps define the environment. That also creates a stronger indoor-outdoor connection. In many traditional homes, the outdoor space is secondary. You leave the house to access it. In a U-shaped layout, the outdoor area often becomes visually central to the entire design. Windows face inward toward it. Glass doors open directly onto it. Hallways frame views toward it. Multiple rooms orient around it. That creates something many people associate with much more expensive custom homes. A resort-like feeling. The house begins feeling curated, architectural, designed, rather than simply built. And that perceived luxury is one reason U-shaped homes often punch above their weight aesthetically, even when they are not ultra-high budget builds. The layout alone creates a more premium spatial experience. But the benefits are not only visual, there are practical environmental advantages too. Because by shaping the home around a courtyard, architects can improve how natural light enters the property. Traditional rectangular homes often have interior rooms with limited window exposure. Especially in deeper floor plans, some spaces end up darker, more enclosed, and more dependent on artificial lighting. A U-shaped layout increases perimeter wall length. That gives more rooms access to exterior-facing walls, which means more windows, more daylight, more opportunities for cross-ventilation, and the difference in feel can be dramatic. Homes with better natural light tend to feel more open, more expensive, more inviting, and more emotionally comfortable. That may sound subjective, but it matters. Because how a home feels often determines how much people enjoy living in it. And large families especially benefit from that. A bright, well-zoned home tends to feel calmer and less oppressive even when many people occupy it. Then there is entertaining. This is another advantage many buyers underestimate. Because U-shaped homes create natural gathering environments. The courtyard becomes a central entertainment hub. Guests can circulate between indoor and outdoor areas more fluidly. Hosting feels easier. Outdoor dining feels more intentional. Large gatherings distribute more naturally. Instead of everyone crowding one patio door or bunching into a rectangular backyard, people spread around the center of the home. It creates better event flow, better atmosphere, better use of the property. And even if a family does not host often, that central space still improves everyday living. Morning coffee outside feels more private. Family dinners outdoors become easier. Children naturally migrate to the enclosed center space. The property feels more sheltered from neighboring lots. That privacy advantage is significant too, because the inward-facing design of many U-shaped homes creates a more secluded outdoor environment. Rather than exposing the primary outdoor living area directly to side neighbors or rear property lines, the home itself shields much of it. That can make suburban or semi-rural lots feel substantially more private without requiring as much fencing or landscaping. And over time, that changes how often families actually use their exterior space. People use spaces that feel comfortable, protected, integrated, and convenient. And U-shaped homes excel at creating exactly that. Perhaps most importantly, these homes often age better with the family. Because what starts as a child supervision advantage later becomes an entertaining advantage, then later a privacy advantage, then eventually a multi-generational advantage. The same layout keeps solving different problems as life changes. That adaptability is part of why families who build well-designed U-shaped homes often remain in them for many years. The home evolves with them. But despite all of those advantages, this layout is not universally better. Because the very design choices that create those benefits also introduce real trade-offs. Higher costs, lot limitations, construction complexity. And if those trade-offs are ignored, a U-shaped home can quickly become an expensive mistake, instead of a smart design decision. Which is why before anyone commits to one, they need to understand where this layout makes sense, and where it absolutely does not. For all the advantages U-shaped homes offer, better privacy, smarter zoning, improved outdoor living, and a more premium overall feel, there is an important reality many videos skip. This layout is not automatically the best option, because what makes a U-shaped home so functional also makes it more demanding to design and build well. And if the lot, budget, or family situation is wrong, it can become an expensive overcorrection. The first trade-off is construction cost. In most cases, a U-shaped home costs more to build than a similarly sized rectangular home. Not necessarily because the rooms are larger, but because the structure itself is more complex. A simple rectangular home is efficient by nature. It has fewer corners, fewer roof intersections, less exterior wall area, simpler foundation geometry, and more straightforward framing. A U-shaped design adds complexity to nearly all of that. More corners mean more framing labor. More roof transitions increase roofing cost. More exterior wall area raises material use. Foundation work becomes less efficient. Drainage and waterproofing details become more involved. Individually, none of those may seem dramatic. Combined, they add up. Depending on region, finishes, and design complexity, U-shaped homes can carry a meaningful cost premium compared with more compact footprints. And that is before considering the lot itself. Because one of the biggest limitations of U-shaped homes is width. They need room to spread. Unlike a deep rectangular floor plan that can fit on narrower lots, U-shaped homes generally require broader sites to work properly. If the lot is too narrow, the home either becomes compressed and awkward, or the courtyard shrinks into something too small to justify the design. That means many suburban infill lots simply are not ideal candidates. These homes tend to work best on wider suburban parcels, acreage, or rural semi-rural land where the footprint has room to breathe. Without enough width, much of the layout's advantage disappears. Then there is the issue of efficiency, because while U-shaped homes often feel larger and more luxurious, they can be less efficient from a system standpoint. Longer footprints may require more HVAC zoning, longer plumbing runs, more electrical distribution, and potentially higher heating and cooling costs depending on climate and design. That does not mean they are inefficient by default. A well-designed U-shaped home can still perform very well, but it requires more thoughtful planning. Badly designed versions can create unnecessary operational inefficiencies simply because the layout was chosen for aesthetics rather than function. And that leads to one of the biggest mistakes buyers make: choosing the shape because it looks impressive, without truly needing what it offers. Because while U-shaped homes can be outstanding for large families, they are not automatically ideal for everyone. If you have a small household, 2 or 3 people with minimal need for separation, a U-shaped layout may provide complexity without enough benefit. You may be paying extra for zoning and courtyard advantages you rarely use. Likewise, if your lot is narrow or your build budget is tight, prioritizing efficient square footage may matter more than advanced layout strategy. In those situations, a simpler rectangular or modified L-shaped plan may deliver better value. So, who should actually consider a U-shaped home? Generally, families who need multiple living zones, households with several children of different ages, multi-generational families, families with frequent overnight guests, households where 1 or more adults work from home, families who place high value on privacy and outdoor integration, buyers building on wider lots where the footprint can be properly executed. For those buyers, the layout can be transformational because it solves problems standard floor plans often never fully address. But if your family does not truly need those benefits, the premium may not be justified. And that is the real strategic takeaway. A U-shaped home is not better because it is trendy, not better because it looks expensive, not better because architects like drawing them. It is better when the household using it has the exact kinds of needs that layout was designed to solve. That is what separates smart architecture from expensive architecture. The best floor plan is never the one that looks most impressive online. It is the one that matches how your family actually lives. And for large families, especially families juggling privacy needs, noise, multi-generational living, guest accommodations, outdoor supervision, and constant daily activity, a U-shaped home can solve problems that simply adding more square footage never will. Because sometimes the smartest move is not building bigger, it is building smarter. That is why more architects continue recommending these layouts for large households. Not because they are flashy, but because when designed correctly, they work. And if your family constantly feels like your current house is too chaotic, too noisy, too crowded, or too poorly organized despite having enough square footage, it may not be a size problem at all. It may be a layout problem, and a U-shaped design might be the first floor plan that actually fixes it. So the real question is not whether U-shaped homes are better. It is whether your family lives in a way that makes their advantages worth the trade-offs. Because if the answer is yes, few layouts solve large family living this effectively. If you were designing your forever home, would you choose a U-shaped layout for the privacy and courtyard advantages? Or would you rather keep a simpler footprint and save the money? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy practical home design breakdowns like this, where we look past trends and focus on what actually works for real families, subscribe for more.